Yo, what's up? Welcome inside the opening line. Corey and my main man, Vlad, Roto Gut, holding it down, filling in for Benny today, part of the Elite Mafia. Vlad, what's good with you, big homie?
Not much, man. It's I think it's a little warmer in LA, and by warmer, I mean it's like, maybe 60 degrees, but I'm good, man. Good to be on with you today.
Yeah, well, actually, we had a 95-degree day yesterday over here on this side of town. 95 degrees in October is not, it's not regular, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We'll leave the global warming debate alone. So Vlad, what I wanted to start off talking to you about today, and we'll get into a lot of stuff, you know what I'm saying? We'll break down the Thursday night slate, and we'll talk some NBA futures and some MLB futures now that we are in the month of October and headed into the World Series. But I wanted to start off talking to you about how did your high-stakes baseball season go? I saw where it seems like our buddy Matt Medica took all the money out the industry this year, but I'm sure you had some success as well.
Yeah, you know what? I always kind of have super high expectations for myself. I'm coming in every year like I want to take down all the overalls. I want to win all my leagues, and so anything short of that, for me at least, I usually kind of consider a failure. I did play 5 of the online leagues over on NFBC where I ended up getting first or second place in 4 of those, which, for the most case, I'm pretty happy with, and that's a success. But, the Platinum League, the one I do with Rob Silver, we came in second last year, and, that was a 15K entry.
Yeah.
This year, we were just middle of the pack, man. We had, we had some Justin Verlander and Kershaw, and we had good pitching, but this was just such a crazy year, with power. And we were just always short, you know what I mean? We never got a piece of Jorge Soler, who hit 40-something homers. Suarez hit almost 50. Renfroe, Ketel Marte, you name it. All these big guys that blew up, we just didn't have a piece of. So unfortunately, we didn't get a piece of the big pie in Platinum.
No, that's tough right there, especially when you crack that 15K nut. I always tell people some of these leagues, you know what I'm saying? Winning is not even fun. It's kind of like a relief. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because you're like, okay, God, thank God I got some of that money back. You know what I mean? Now, I know my football season in the NFFC, I do a big auction up in the live one up here in Manhattan. And, so far 2-2, middle of the pack, whatever. But my strategy in this specific auction was I wanted to get Odell because I thought Odell was going to have this breakthrough, unbelievable season. I paired him with Travis Kelce because I think you want to have a piece of the Kansas City Chiefs offense and able to knock one of these things down. But really, I've had a slow start out of Sony Michel, and Odell hasn't given me what I want yet. Are you other thinking that Michel is a touchdown-dependent guy that's really somebody that – see, I think Michel is somebody that can get it going and be an RB1, and the touchdowns are just a big upside, but we haven't seen that yet.
Yeah, you know what, and it kind of sucks, especially for people that have invested in him because they've had that easy schedule so far, and you're looking at these next few weeks. These are going to really make or break them. They got a bye week in a while. It's in week 10. Until then, they're going to be big time, double-digit favorites against they are against Washington this week. Same thing against the Giants. Then they get the Jets. Those are 3 great matchups, good game script for somebody like Sony Michel to get it going. And so what really kind of, I guess you hate to ever wish injury upon someone, but, if Rex Burkhead is banged up right now, you kind of want him to still be banged up for Sonny to really get his due. Because we know for all these years, Bill Belichick just trolls everybody with the running back position. And the problem with Sony Michel is they don't really let him catch passes out of the backfield. So you're really depending on him, getting goal line carries and getting those opportunities. His weeks are won when he has big game script and he gets a couple of goal line carries and takes it into the box a couple of times.
Yeah, no, that is true. But you really want to see him getting going and start pounding it out and closing it out down the stretch to end some of these games. Everybody in New England says that it's not a problem as far as health is concerned, but that's interesting. As far as Odell, the Cleveland Browns offense has kind of been up and down to start the season. We've seen Baker look real bad, patting the football, not trusting his offensive line. So that obviously takes away from Odell's game. But then they go to Baltimore and they put up 40 points, and Odell has 1 catch, and that's a real head scratcher right there.
Yeah, you know what? The one thing that kind of worried me, like, so I have Odell Beckham on my main primetime team. Luckily there I got a pretty good supporting cast. I targeted Lamar Jackson, who I've got in a lot of places. I got Cooper Kupp in the 5th round. Dalvin Cook was my first rounder. So that team's in good shape. But I am worried about the Beckham part. But I kind of saw some issues with Cleveland when I really started to dig into the schedule before the season began. And I was just looking at the schedule. I was like, I don't understand why Baker Mayfield is going, ADP, like around Aaron Rodgers and like 2-3 rounds ahead of guys like Winston and Cam at the time and Lamar Jackson, because, they have a really brutal schedule. All right, so, they've got San Francisco and Seattle coming up, 2 games where they can get some stuff done. After the bye week, they're going to New England, then they're going to Denver, then they're playing Buffalo at home. Eventually they get Pittsburgh. Like, they have a pretty tough schedule, and that's kind of the thing. Luckily, a guy like Beckham, and once Baker gets going, they're not really schedule affected. So I feel like he's going to get his. I just wonder if it's going to be that super upside season we were hoping for.
How is your Silver Bullet team doing?
It's okay. It's one of those teams where it got off to an incredible start the first couple of weeks, then it sort of slowed down. I have a really weak bench, so my starters are great. But once bye weeks start coming, I feel like it's going to be possibly some rough sledding.
No doubt, and those bye weeks will be picking up over the course of the next couple of weeks. Make sure you log in to fantasyguru.com. They got you covered, get you through those bye weeks as they start to ramp up, and we really start to get into the heat of the fantasy football season. Come back to some football in a little bit, but I want to change courses as the Major League Baseball playoffs are rolling and talk about some of these some futures. Before we get to the World Series and the NL and the wild card and stuff like that, when you look at some of these series, I want to see if there's any value there. I'm using the FanDuel Sportsbook for my reference. The Twins and the Yankees, obviously the Yankees are a big favorite coming in at -235. Now, the Twins are not the same old Twins. This is a Twins team that can hammer the ball out the ballpark, especially a ballpark like Yankee Stadium. What do you think about that 196 with the Twins?
You know what? It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough for them to get past them in this series. The pitching really isn't really strong outside of Jose Barrios. And on the flip side, you got the Yankees, who already have a pretty solid 1-2 punch leading off with Paxton, and then now they're going to have Severino back. Severino made his way back there the last couple of weeks. He looked pretty good, so he's in the mix. You got Jay Happ probably is the sort of the bulk innings guy. And, with Minnesota, their bullpen is okay. It's just not amazing. Their closer, Taylor Rogers, is holding it down. But in order to get to Taylor Rogers, you need to kind of have a lead, right? So, Minnesota I think they're going to have a little bit of a tough time here in this series. I'm going to have to sort of lean on the side of the Yankees, especially getting Stanton back. They got all these big boppers. The team just looks great. So, I know both teams hit over 300 home runs. There are going to be some home runs hit in this series. But at the end of the day, with the home field advantage and everything, I think it's going to be the Yankees.
Washington and the Washington Nationals, who had that dramatic win the other night at home versus the Los Angeles Dodgers, basically got the same price on this series. The Dodgers come in laying that same -232 that the Yankees were, and the Nationals are catching that $1.96. Now, when you look at the Nats, somebody who's lived out there for a long time, clutch moments in the playoffs and Washington Nationals don't tend to go together. Now you come into a series, they do got those big starters, Strasburg and Scherzer, but the Dodgers have been the class of the National League, if not the major leagues, all year.
Yeah, so, Dodgers are my team, man. Like, my first memory as a kid, I was 9 years old, watching the game when Kirk Gibson hit that home run in Game 1 of the World Series. Yeah, so, it's been a long time coming. It's been rough as a Dodger fan, especially a team that's had the money to basically, not buy themselves a World Series, but really put themselves in contention. So the first year was brutal, man, against the Astros. That was, a hell of a series. Went to a couple of games there at the end, just got, beat out there in Game 7. Last year was a little easier to swallow. It was one of those series where, like, all right, it's the Red Sox. They're firing on all cylinders. I'm just going to be kind of, pessimistic. And because of that, I didn't lose too much sleep over them losing. Here's another scenario where I guess, again, I'm going to be a little bit pessimistic because I just don't know and see how at the end of it, even if they get there, which I think they absolutely could, that they're going to beat the Astros. It's just, I hate to say it, it's tough. I'm still going to put some money on the Dodgers because that's where my heart lies. But first, they need to get past the Nationals. And the Nationals, they've got a lot of momentum going into this series, beating out the Brewers. They've got, no Harper's involved now, but Anthony Rendon stepped up. He's an MVP type of guy. Juan Soto, guy can't even buy a beer, but he can, win a World Series possibly. And they do have that 1-2 punch. So if there was one sneaky bet I'm making, and I hate to do it against my Dodgers, it's for the Nats to win these series, or at least for Nats to go to the championship. Because if they can get past the Dodgers, I think you might see them in the World Series.
That's interesting, and we'll get to that a little bit in a second. The Braves and the Cardinals. The Braves come in laying to 136. St. Louis at 116. When you look at this Braves team, we start to saw the evolution of it last year. I didn't think they did enough to keep it going in the offseason, but they go out there to get Dallas Keuchel. He's their game one starter. And you look at the Braves. The Braves are a team that I think can make some noise in the National League.
Yeah, they're the other team. They're going to give I think they come out of the series. I just don't think the Cardinals just have enough juju. They don't have enough firepower. The Braves are just the team, led by Ronald Acuna, who I think you can make a good case for being the number one pick in fantasy baseball drafts next year. Him, Freddie Freeman's an MVP type guy. Even their bench bats, they've got some good veterans there. Markakis, Matt Joyce, guys that can come up in the clutch. And I think the pitching can get it done. I think the bullpen that they worked to build, over the course of the season, they added Shane Green from Detroit. They added Mark Melanson. You got two, good closers there. Luke Jackson has been a beast. And I think the pitching will do just enough. I'm not a big Dallas Keuchel fan at this point, but I do like the Braves. I do prefer them over the Cardinals.
To win the National League, the NL winner, the Dodgers are minus 120, the Braves plus 280, the Nats plus 550. We spoke about them. Obviously, you mentioned the Cardinals don't have enough juju. They come in at plus 650. That Nationals number and that Braves number, which one of those would you rather invest in?
What were those numbers again?
I have Braves 250s, Nationals 550.
Man, it's tough because Braves have an easier path, but that easier path comes through if they face Washington. I think I think obviously you got Dodgers being the favorites and all. But I guess I would probably take the bigger odds and go with the Braves at this point. They just have a nice young all around team, better offense than Washington technically. So I think I would look to get the extra payday and go with Atlanta.
In the American League, the Astros are minus 110, just about even money. The Yankees come in at plus 200. The Twins, who we spoke about, big number, plus 650. Tampa is at plus 750. I think Tampa is interesting, particularly in the series against the Astros, because, listen, the Astros are the class. But when you look at Tampa, what they do defensively and analytically and stuff like that, and they can put the wood on I'm about to say the basketball, on the baseball, it's a big upset if it happens. Mm-hmm. What do you think about the Rays in this American League setting?
Man, I'm not opposed. The Rays were a team that I kind of invested in a lot for in fantasy. Austin Meadows was basically my big sort of Christian Yelich type breakout for this year. And so, but the problem is investing in Rays meant, obviously my teams were light in power because the team isn't big on hitting home runs. So, you get a good batting average out of them, but hey, there are 5 categories in hitting for baseball. I think it's a good sneaky bet. They're a really pesky team, and now they're in contention because they got Tyler Glasnow back. And, obviously he missed about half the season. He looked electric, and they were kind of bringing him on slowly, doing 2, 3, 4 innings at a time. But he's pretty close to ramped up. I think he's kind of a key and a difference maker. Like them having, Glasnow and Morton and a really good staff and a decent bullpen, I think gives them a shot. I kind of like that bet.
No doubt. And then to win the American League, they're at plus 750. What do you think about the Yankees? Can they get the job done and get to the World Series?
Sure, it's possible. Of course, it's basically the second best odds, right? They're in that division or in that American League. And what wouldn't people want more than the Dodgers Yankees World Series?
That's the dream right there.
Yeah, that'd be amazing. But yeah, I mean, most likely Astros, but I could see the Yankees doing it, of course.
And to win the whole thing, the Astros plus 220, Dodgers plus 280, Yanks plus 450, Braves 800, Twins, Nationals 1200, Cardinals and Rays each at 1500. Listen, the smart bet is probably the Houston Astros. You know what I'm saying? And you're getting them at plus 220. The Yankees and Dodgers is what we want. You know what I'm saying? But the truth of the matter is, and I think you would agree, the Astros is probably the best bet here.
Yeah, and it didn't the DK co-founder, he put down $3.5 million on him on the sports book. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, it's just a safe bet. You just take the Astros if you want to do, throw a small, something, couple units on the Braves at plus 800 just for the hell of it, because it's baseball and anything could happen, right? This isn't the NBA, so yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no doubt. No, baseball, I tell people all the time, is the most contrarian sport is baseball. The thing that's least likely to happen is the thing that's a good chance it could happen in Major League Baseball. I mean, you just look at what we just saw the past 2 nights with both the underdogs, more or less, well, the Nationals one is a favorite, but they were on the ropes. And last night, obviously, the Rays, made light work of Oakland in their ballpark.
Yeah, it's to me. I mean, at the end of the day, as much as I hate to say it, as much as I hate to see the Astros kind of raise it up, I mean, just look at that offense, man. They're just absolutely insane, out of this world. And then Verlander and Garrett Cole, I mean, just it's way too lit for them.
What do you think about what the style of management that the Oakland Athletics and the Tampa Bay Rays has? Small market, analytical, you know what I'm saying? That type of way. We've seen it be marginally successful. Obviously, Yankees, Dodgers, the Boston, the big bankroll teams, they tend to be there. But with these small markets and how they play the game, what do you think of that?
I mean, I think it's a win, just the fact that they get there, right? I mean, even if the Rays make some noise and take the series to 7 games, I mean, I think that's going to be a big win for them. A lot of times at that point, it's just hard to compete with with the big boy teams, regardless of how sharp their managers are, how many openers they use, and matchups, splits they play. At the end of the day, when you have more firepower on your offense and more bullets in your bullpen, you're just increasing the likelihood of things going your way. And that's kind of the case with teams like the Astros and the Dodgers and the Yankees. They just have so much going on where, I mean, even the Dodgers, their number 8 hitter, Will Smith, I was talking about it, with some friends when he got called up. Like, Will Smith is, their catcher at that time. I'm like, this guy's going to make the big league roster. Forget, this Austin Barnes crap. He's going to make the roster. He's going to make some noise in the playoffs just out of nowhere. And when he's your number 8 hitter, your number 7 hitter, you have a guy like that, that potential to do some damage is a good hitter. It puts your team in a good position.
No, that definitely does make it tough. So don't forget EliteSportsBetting.com. It's where you can get all the stuff from all the team over at Elite Fantasy and what they're going to be doing with Major League Baseball and each and every day, the daily bets and stuff like that, which have both hit through the wild card rounds. All right, let's talk some hoops to get into some basketball. This Western Conference is going to be a thing in itself this year, and I'm really looking forward to it. And I hate to say it, because listen. Some people know me. A couple of people may know me as a Knicks fan, and I've dibbled and dabbled with the Knicks. Glad Phil Jackson is gone, so I came back a little bit. So my foot is in the water. But the Eastern Conference, I think we kind of got it sewn up. We know who the top teams are in the Eastern Conference. This Western Conference is going to be a wild ride, though. And I want to start off with the New Orleans Pelicans and their win total of 38.5. The thing with the Pelicans is, we're going to see a lot of the New Orleans Pelicans this year, and that's because they have Zion Williamson. And Zion Williamson is a major attraction for television. And ESPN and TNT is going to throw him in our face as much as possible, and we're going to want to see the big crazy dunks. We're going to tune in to it and all of that because of the kind of explosive athlete he is. And, what I'm saying, he's a very marketable and likable guy. I like the way they put the squad together coming into the season after they won the lottery. But first, before we get to the 38.5, here's my thing. The Pelicans are going to be watched so much, I think they're going to be overvalued in some games.
Yeah, it's possible, right? It's an interesting total, man. It's one that I was, I did my whole sort of Western Conference review, just over the last couple of days, getting ready to play some hoops DFS because the season's around the corner.
No doubt.
And I started looking at this team. I'm like, man, they got some great pieces. If they can put this together, it could be very interesting. Like for me, even though it seems like they might be overvalued, if they can gel, it may not be hard for them to top that 38. Even last year, they have a lot of these pieces that the Lakers had last year, and it was just kind of this smorgasbord of crap. It was like, LeBron, and then just all these random guys. Just, I don't know if it was a Luke Walton thing. Maybe them, they're still young. Maybe it's distractions in LA. Everyone's got an ego, but maybe there could be a little bit of magic here because you got Drew Holiday. First of all, is an all-star.
Yep.
Call me crazy. He could be a potential Hall of Famer. He continues to have a really good career. He's a really good point man for this team. He's, one of those guys that's really mature, can kind of get things together. You got Lonzo Ball, Ingram, Derek Favors is he's just going to kind of an undersized center, but gets the job done. Not a big fantasy guy, sometimes disappoints in fantasy, but somebody that's really solid there. And then their bench is solid too. JJ Redick pretty much is always part of a playoff team every year. Josh Hart showed some great promise last year with the Lakers. They got Okafor still. It's a good team, man. I kind of like it. And also to win it all, obviously there's no chance here, but one of the better bets on the board, if you're actually looking at it, it's plus 5,500.
Oh, that's interesting right there. But like you said, it's probably no chance at all. Yeah. Is this a playoff team in the Western Conference?
Not in the West, unfortunately.
Exactly. I think they just miss it.
Yeah, there's way too many good teams in the West, and there's some solid but boring teams. I'm sure we'll talk about them in a minute.
You know what's interesting? If it was when they redo their CBA, they're going to go to a Major League Baseball style format with a 1-game playing. The 7 seed will play the 10 seed, the 8 seed will play the 9 seed, and then those two winners will go into the tournament. That's what's going to end up happening. If they had that in place this year, the Pelicans will probably be in one of those 2 games, and that would be a win. When you look at the top of the conference with the Lakers and the Clippers, obviously the 2 big ones are right there. And this is not me, rooting on my West Coast team, my Dubs. Golden State over 47.5. I like that. I think that can hit. As far as how they finish the season, I still think they're in the Western Conference Finals. Now, that means they're going to have to either knock off the Lakers or the Clippers. I think by the time they get to that spot in a playoff-tested team that's been there and done that, you'll get Clay back for the second half of the season. We know what kind of thing Draymond brings. Obviously, Steph Curry could be the best player in the NBA. And I think the addition of D'Angelo Russell is actually very good because I think there's somebody that can come out there and run that second unit. Listen, it's not Klay Thompson, but he can definitely still make the team respectable.
Yeah, it's actually the team that sticks out to me, and I've been a known Warriors hater for many years because, obviously I'm from SoCal, so yeah, I just instantly have to hate on everything, Northern California. And so, I've seen them in the finals. I'm rooting against them. I don't care who the team is. Yeah. But for whatever reason, I kind of like them this year, at least because everybody's just like, they're missing everybody now. And you really think about it, you take away Durant, that's a huge hole, and other teams have gotten better. The Nuggets are still the same amazing team, and I think they won about 54 games last year. So the Warriors are definitely making the playoffs, and you never know, they could make a push. They're going to get Clay back at some point. Maybe there's some sort of deal they can make at the trade deadline. I was actually looking at, and I hope I'm not jumping the gun here, but I was just looking at Curry as a potential MVP bet. It's the second highest odds behind Giannis, over on Milwaukee. Giannis has the best odds, but Curry at plus 550 is kind of looking good because if you think about it, all these other teams that have candidates that are, going to be MVP candidates, they're kind of eating each other's votes away, right? Like you've got LeBron and Anthony Davis on the Lakers. You got George and Kawhi on the Clippers. The Rockets, Westbrook and Harden. Every one of these scenarios, it's kind of tough to make. And if the Golden State Warriors are good and they make the playoffs and they make a run, Curry's going to be the main reason, right? And plus 550, it seems like pretty good odds with no Durant around.
No, I like the Curry bet at plus 550. You worry about, listen, I want those ankles to hold up for Steph Curry. Obviously injuries, not really the past couple years, but he'll get nicked up from time to time. The MVP thing is cool. It's an interesting thing. Giannis at plus 270. I'm looking at the FanDuel Sportsbook. That's a good number also. You mentioned Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. I don't think that they'll play enough games. I think you'll see load management with both those players. Mm-hmm. They went to a team where they could do load management because you got a gunner, a straight assassin scorer. Like, what's my man with the curly hair that had the two girlfriends? Lou
Williams?
Yeah, Lou
Will. I love him. Like, literally my favorite player in the league.
Lou Will is great. And then you got Harold and Doc Rivers. So, I think those minutes will get staggered and those guys will get their days off. I think Joel Embiid is interesting at plus 1,600, but also the same thing. Joel Embiid is going to have some time off too. Obviously, the 76ers plan on making a deep run. So I look at Embiid as a guy that they'll probably employ some load management. I agree with Westbrook and Harden. They'll eat each other away. The interesting one for me, though, plus 1,100, Nikola Jokic, because he's not going to take games off, and he is the man on that team, and he has all-around game. And I think he could be heading into an MVP-type year. So maybe, a couple bucks at plus 1,100 on Jokic. What do you think about that?
Yeah, he's interesting. I mean, right? This is a team that hasn't changed much at all. They have really good chemistry. Teams come and play in their elevation and get smashed. And he could have, take it to another level in terms of a breakout. He really, really is a beast. I think they've been kind of in the news because there was some, maybe some like photos that were posted on Twitter that made him look, like out of shape.
He's unappealing. Nah, but fat boys can play basketball too.
They called him like Slide Drexler or something like that. Or I forgot. And his brother just got arrested or something like that. But anyways, I like Jokic very much, man. I think that's a good bet. I did want to throw one to you that is a total dark horse, but hey, you got the roll. You want to throw a little bit out for fun there.
Oh, man, I think I know where you might be going. But go ahead and say it.
So I was going to say, and it sounds crazy, right? But this is sports. Anything can happen. Donovan Mitchell, plus 4,500 for the Utah Jazz. The Jazz already have one of the highest projected totals in the West. I think they've, around 53.5, 54.5, depending where you're looking. Already the best defensive team in the game. Added Mike Conley, who's a good scorer and a good defender. Guys like Royce O'Neal are getting better. This is but they added the older Bogdanovich. They're not brothers, but the guy that just is perfect fit for the team, just like the straight shooter. Yeah. This is a good offense, and he's kind of the glue that puts it all together. If he's able to take it to the next level, and they could literally win, make it out of the West. It's truly possible, and have such a good regular season and possibly win. It's a total dark horse. That's why it's plus 4,500. But I kind of like it.
I got two, and I think that's interesting right there, and that's a good call. I got two more guards that I think could be interesting in the MVP conversation. Dame Lillard at plus 2,800. I think we could be going into a season of Dame. And this one right here is a long shot too. Not as much of a long shot as Mitchell, but Kemba Walker. If he goes into Boston and they get the 1 seed and he kind of brings that unit together like Kyrie Irving could, I think you could see his name mentioned in the conversation for rookie of the not rookie of the year. He's well past that. I remember that night. I remember that UConn-Syracuse game. But Kemba Walker at plus I'm on FanDuel, they got him at plus 5,000. I think that could be a sneaky one right there too.
You know what? For whatever reason, this kind of feels like it's meant to be. For whatever reason, I'm looking at Kemba Walker in a Celtics uniform. Just looks good, man. I've always been a big fan of his game. He's never really had that team where where things could get interesting for him. So I like that very much, man. He's they really needed somebody like that. I think he's a perfect fit for them. He's going to lead that offense, an offense with pieces that are young and getting better. So I'm not opposed to that at all.
Let me ask you about the Dallas Mavericks. 40.5 is the number for the win total. You get a healthy Kristaps. You get Luka coming into his second season. You got some more decent pieces out there in Dallas. Are they a playoff team in the Western Conference?
It's kind of borderline, right? I worry actually about this team kind of staying together and staying healthy all year.
That's true.
They already have some injuries, happening in the preseason. They added DeLon Wright, who was basically Kyle Lowry's backup in Toronto there for a while. I think he's pretty solid, can hold things down at the point. Obviously, they have a couple other guys, Jalen Brunson. I believe J.J. Barea is hurt, but at some point he'll be back too. So it's an interesting team, right? It all depends on Porzingis' health. Luka's obviously a stud player, probably a top 12 guy already in the league, taking it to the next level. So, still have Tim Hardaway Jr., Dwight Powell's kind of come into his own. And, of course, they got Boban. So anything is possible, I guess.
What about San Antonio? DeJounte Murray back, 47.5, same number as the Golden State Warriors. I think the Warriors are better than San Antonio. This seems high for the Spurs to me.
Yeah, so they won 48, and the team isn't all that much different. And they get Murray back, which I think is going to be a really nice boost for them. I think it'll be close. They always kind of find a way to get it done, man. Just old and boring, and but DeRozan, Aldridge are still a couple of studs. Rudy Gay off the bench. It's not a bad team.
No doubt. I would agree with you on that one. Portland. Where do you think how deep can Portland get to the second round in the Western Conference?
Sure, it's possible. They're always they're always in the competition. They're in the mix. They don't have a lot of depth, at least to me, the way it looks. And I don't trust Harold Whiteside's health. They added him because Yusuf Nurkic is going to be out, I think, for a good chunk of the season. Maybe all of it. Who knows? They would kind of need to get Nurkic back at some point late in the season to really kind of help. I just don't see Whiteside holding up the whole season. And so it just becomes it's Lillard and McCollum trying to take everything into their own hands. But I'm just kind of looking at teams around there. I just don't know if they have enough depth to get it done.
To win the Western Conference, the Clippers are the favorites at plus 200. The Lakers come in next at plus 270. Houston plus 550. Utah plus 800, Golden State plus 850, Denver plus 1,200, Portland plus 2,100. The Lakers at plus 270 is my bet.
You know what? It sounds good, but and I'm a Laker fan, so obviously I'm a little biased. But I'm biased in the opposite way.
I'm about to say you could be biased in the opposite way. That's like me betting on the Cowboys. I'm like, I don't know. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. I never like betting on Dallas because I'm like, you know what I'm saying? As a fan, you're pessimistic.
Exactly. That's the way to be, especially if you know your team the best. You could be a little harsher on them and kind of set reality. Set things into reality. Obviously, I love the Lakers. There's a lot of things here going for them. I love, it's really all about hoping Anthony Davis can stay healthy all year, mixes well with LeBron. They added Dwight Howard, by the way, which I don't think is a bad move at all. Supposedly in camp so far, he's all business. He's just getting it done. I don't know how long that'll last. Maybe, I hate to joke around about this stuff. Maybe meds will wear off. I don't know. But you get a healthy Dwight Howard, Javale McGee. You have, basically in Bradley and KCP, like possibly the best defensive duo you could possibly imagine. Like Lakers actually have defense now. It's pretty good, man. I kind of don't mind that bet at all.
I still like the Warriors too in the Eastern Conference. To win the Eastern Conference, the Bucks are the favorite at plus 150. Philadelphia at plus 220, Boston at plus 700, Brooklyn at plus 1,200, Toronto drops to plus 1,400, the Pacers at plus 1,600. Oh, man, this is tough. You know who the core is. My thing is, what's the deal with Oladipo and who are the Pacers this year?
Man, I don't even know, to be honest.
Oladipo is not ready to practice yet.
Yeah, it's going to be a while. It's going to be a little bit till he comes back. They had a pretty solid year last year. They were basically the fifth seed. They won almost 50 games, so it was pretty impressive. And it's really a lot of Domantas Sabonis taking things to the next level. Miles Turner. It's an interesting team, but I think they're going to end up falling short this year.
Yeah, I agree. Probably not enough firepower, but they would be an interesting playoff team. At Boston at plus 700 is interesting because of the Kemba Walker thing right there. So NBA season getting ready to get started, and of course, Vlad got the DFS covered. We got the betting covered too. Let's get into the nice game before we get out of here. Not one of my favorites to handicap when you look at the Rams going on the road to take on Seattle, coming off a loss. This opened up, if I'm not mistaken, this opened up at 1. Seahawks now 1.5. The Rams are a road underdog here. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't be surprised if this is a pick by kickoff. Let's start with the Rams. I'm not the biggest Jared Goff guy, and he hasn't been that good. But Cooper Kupp continues to get it done. That Cooper Kupp was an excellent pick. I don't own Cooper Kupp nowhere because I don't like players coming back off the ACL. But Kupp is out there and he's getting it done. The rest of the receivers are inconsistent, if you ask me. But Todd Gurley has a tendency to score touchdowns versus the Seattle Seahawks.
Yeah, so this is really interesting because, it opened with the Rams on the road favored by 1 and then switched all the way over to the Seahawks, now 1.5 favorites at home because of what happened last week with Tampa Bay, which nobody saw coming. Like I was all in. I had not a great weekend because I was pretty much all in Rams on everything. I had them all Rams DFS, defense on DFS. Rams was my survivor pick. I'm in this like big league and with my partner who was, I told my partner, I was like, let's just take the Chargers. They're playing the Dolphins. Let's keep it nice and simple. He's like, oh, no, strategy. Everyone's going to take them. Let's go with the Rams.
Play against the Dolphins. That's the strategy.
So, yeah, just keep it simple, right? So we lose that. But yeah, I mean, this is an interesting game. Goff, just as many touchdowns as he has picks, 6 and 6 so far this year. The way to beat this team is through the air. The Rams are passing 65% of the time. They're doing some load management with Todd Gurley. That's why you didn't see him out a lot last week. But you want to beat Seattle. That they don't have Justin Coleman anymore in the secondary. You want to beat them through the air. The one interesting matchup is Cooper Kupp against the slot corner, Jamar Taylor. He's given up per PFF a yards per route covered of just 0.33, which is minuscule. I think the average is like, 1 yard per route covered, whatever. That's going to be an interesting matchup. Obviously, I think, Kupp takes advantage of that, and that should be a good spot.
For Kupp?
Yeah. I just think he's, I think he's for the most part, pretty matchup proof, but it should be, should be pretty interesting. And then on the other side, it's really the ground and pound. Like Seattle, I don't think they're going to try to take advantage of what they saw last week with, how you can, pass on the Rams. I think, they're going to do their ground and pound with Carson. I'm not sure if Rashard Penny is playing, but it's a close one, man. Like I wouldn't even really touch the spread, to be honest. I don't want to say with confidence, hey, people, you have to, bet the Rams, +1 or whatever. I just don't want to touch it. I want to enjoy the game. Maybe I'll touch the over, the under, and go from there.
Yeah, I'm not touching it either. Let me ask you, as far as the spread goes, Kupp receiving yards, 75.5. That's
I'm gonna take the under on this one because everyone's betting the over. Everyone feels like that's just the easy thing. I'm gonna just consider that the guys on the outside are going to get more work because they have the easier matchups. I understand there's that narrative that Goff and Kupp are like, connected at the hip. They were roommates, they're best friends, all that. That's great. But game to game, things changes. I think this could be more of a Woods and Brandon Cooks game. And I'm going to be the contrarian. I'm going to go under on Kupp.
What about Robert Woods at 65.5?
He's my least favorite of the 3 receivers, but this is sports, this is fantasy. I think for this specific matchup, I think he's going to be over. I think he's going to get like 70, 75 yards.
Yeah, I would agree with that one. The other one I'm looking at, as far as a prop bet I would play tonight, it's Todd Gurley to score a touchdown at +105.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I like it, right? If the one concern there is, maybe those goal line carries might go to Malcolm Brown. They could eventually, or it's possible. So, on Monday, I was like, man, I'm taking James Conner for a rushing touchdown. This is an easy bet. And I didn't even really realize that it was, I should know better, but I thought it was just touchdown, right? And of course, he gets a touchdown, but it's a receiving touchdown. So that's what I'm afraid of, just getting trolled by it.
Yeah. No, you gotta pay attention to that, dog. We don't want you out there happening to you. You thinking, hey, I got one, you know what I'm saying? And then it's taken away from you. Chris Carson, the score is -110. Tyler Lockett +155. Brandon Cooks 175. Will Disley is now at +190. That's amazing to me. And DK Metcalf +210. Malcolm Brown +230 along to go with Robert Woods. I think the Gurley one is the one that I really have the most interest in.
Your boy Vlad is one of the only people in the world with Will Disley shares in best ball, and actually quite a few of them. Well, because he's sitting in the 20th round or the 18th round, which is the last.
I was taking Jason Witten in that round.
Yeah, and so my thinking was I had a bunch of Russell Wilson. I want to continue to stack, and I started to kind of read in. I saw how good he was last year in the few games he played, then he got hurt. And I'm like, Nick Van Nett sucks. Then he ended up getting traded, and Disley's actually looking good in camp. He's healthy. He's going to be good. Wilson likes him. He's going to throw to him in the end zone. So far, it's been working out. So far, I've been lucky. I don't know how long it'll last, but I'll take what I can from it.
No doubt about it. I'll be back on tonight with I'll be on the Fantasy Elite live stream beginning at 6 p.m. East. Am I doing that with you tonight?
You know what? I don't know. I probably should know. I don't think. Let's look at the. Yeah, me and you. All right, awesome.
So we get to double dip tonight. You know what I'm saying? So we'll be back on the Guru on the Fantasy Elite site. Me and Vlad at 6 p.m. East, and we'll give you a full rundown and breakdown of the whole showdown slate and start to take a look at this weekend in DFS. Before we get out of here, every day, Vlad, we give away what I like to call a big piece of chicken. It is the previous night's MVP. Tonight, my big piece of chicken goes to Yandy Diaz. He gets those 2 home runs for Tampa Bay Rays. Anybody you want to give a shout out to from last night?
Dude, I mean, there really wasn't much action in anything yesterday. It has to be Yandy Diaz, man. Leadoff homer. And another bad lesson or just like bad luck for myself. I was driving and I'm like, I should probably throw in a bet on the Rays. I kind of see them getting to Mania early. I got to do it. They're, like +115. Of course I didn't do it. Of course, the Rays just take it to them in the beginning. So,
what's crazy? I was in here yesterday and every you know what I'm saying? I'm living in Long Island now, and I'm out here with my sister and my brother-in-law. My brother-in-law is from Oakland. You know what I'm saying? He's an A's fan, born and raised in Oakland. And I'm like, shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's an Eagle fan, too. Uh-huh. So watching the game, and he'd be like, you bet on this? And I'm like, yeah. Who you got? I was like, the Falcons. You know what I'm saying? And then yesterday, every bone in my body was like, yo, man, get up, take a trip out to Jersey. You know what I'm saying? And put some money on the Rays. And I was like, man, I can't sit in here and root for the Rays while he's sitting up there being heartbroken. So I did not make a trip out to Jersey to lay it on Tampa. But that means I lost out on a bet that would have doubled my money as you was getting plus money on them.
But earned family karma, so that's probably worth more.
That's all the thing that's, man. There you go right there. For my main man, Vlad, I'm Corey Parson, the fantasy executive, the opening line. We are out.